It's a 1:30 on a 4-day run, and the desert is a welcome sight. I can see you there in that dress you wear, and it's keeping my foot on the gas. I drink a gallon of Joe just to make it back home and hold you in my arms and laugh.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers found sometime last week has been inspected in Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
The views, opinions, and representations expressed on the K-Ghost Radio Network and its website are those of the host, guest, and participants, and they are not necessarily those of or endorsed by the network, its affiliated stations and broadcast, management, or advertisers of the network. The show is found under LJA Broadcasting Network. UFO Talk Radio can, but does not necessarily promote any particular lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice. These shows are for entertainment purposes only, and they are not intended to treat or diagnose and or claim to cure any disease or condition, or give any medical or legal advice. All music is purchased and owned by LJA Broadcasting.
Some fun right along with us, broadcasting live deep from the desert of Nevada. Welcome to the Glenn Leary Show. Now, broadcasting live from deep in the desert of Nevada, K-Ghost Radio presents UFOTalkRadio.com with your host, Larry Glenn Anderson, Glenn Larry.
And welcome all my friends and families out there from the desert, the high desert, in a wonderful, beautiful Nevada. I am Glenn Larry. Good afternoon, good evening, and wherever you may be from, at what time zone you may be in. We are live. This is Glenn Larry. And to remind you, to say, I like to say hello to a lot of people out there. We have a lot of folks listening tonight, and I'm going to try to get to some of you, of course, to all my affiliates out there, small broadcasters and low-powered stations, shortwave, and may I say, internet stations. 73s to all the ham operators out there, and to the silent key, Whiskey 60 Baker. Thank you kindly. KPFF FM in Pahrump, Nevada. Great little station, my God, they're doing a good job up there. KBHR 57 AM, Siskiyou, Alaska. Thank you for carrying us. And I may ask and say another thing to you, to everybody listening out there. We do thank you from all over the world. Yes, having fun tonight. Lots happening. But UFOs have been popping up everywhere. The triangle has been very, very popular, as you all know. They'd say it's probably ours. Maybe so. We'll find out real soon. The disclosure is supposed to be coming out, and nothing happened with that whole thing. That's kind of big. We know about this stuff already. It's already been said. Give us some answers. It never did come up. No. Wonder what happened there, you know? Oh, yeah. We'll be back right with this. And huge show tonight. And a very interesting show. Kind of very serious, too. I want you to listen, call in, ask questions. We'll be back right with this.
Violence, theft, drugs, graffiti. It's all part of joining a gang. In times like these, we need to protect our children and our community from gangs. Gangs often prey on unsupervised teens with low self-esteem, who perform poorly in school, who seek a sense of belonging, or are simply bored. Joining a gang often involves violent hazing rituals. Once in a gang, members can become alienated from their families, school, and friends. Drugs, guns, and malicious activity are common elements in gangs. Trying to leave a gang can be a difficult and dangerous process. The best way to get out of a gang is never to join one. Protect kids from being recruited by a gang. Know who they're hanging out with. Involve kids in after-school activities and provide positive role models. Help reduce gang activities in your community working with local law enforcement and school systems. Don't let a kid you know get involved with gangs. Visit ncpc.org to learn more or contact your local law enforcement agency.
A message from the U.S. Department of Justice, National Crime Prevention Council, and the Ad Council.
Every day, people are afraid to report violent crimes. In times like these, choosing to report a crime or helping the police can be a difficult decision. A no-snitching culture has sprung up in our communities, making it unpopular and sometimes even dangerous to report a crime. Do the right thing by calling 911 or your local crime tip line. If you're the victim of a crime, report it. If you know about a crime, report it. To learn more about how to do the right thing, visit ncpc.org or contact your local law enforcement agency.
A message from the U.S. Department of Justice, National Crime Prevention Council, and the Ad Council.
Yes, and we are back. Now, prior shows that I've had, we talked about abductions and missing people, folks that just disappear, folks that have been in the forest, taking a little trip, walking, and all of a sudden, their son's gone. Where's little Tommy? Just within seconds, never found. People are disappearing everywhere. All over. Statistics is 30 something per hour throughout the United States. Now, what is that all about? I've said, is it UFOs? What have you? I had gotten to a discussion with a gentleman quite a while back, and I had thought about doing a show like this. Although I was contacted by a gentleman, and it's very serious and it's scary, and it's happening everywhere, all over the world, in every country, every city, and it's serious stuff, and it's happening right now. I have tech guys on the phone, KILLDOOR. I say that first name right, sir. Go ahead.
Oh, absolutely, Mr. Larry. It's
Tacitus, yeah.
As in the Roman historian,
right?
One of the first from the annals, one of the first documenters of the Jewish rebellion, a famous historian, one of the very credible sources.
And a senator too, I guess, back then.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
Did some study on him, and I kept trying to say that word name over and over. It got worse and worse.
Oh yeah, the Latin. It's gone for a reason, sir.
Well, Latin's a dead language now. It's killing me. We used to say that in school. But go ahead. Now, I'd like to ask you right off the bat, what is human trafficking?
Human trafficking. So, human trafficking it's the skin trade. Everything in the underground economy, whether it's weapons, narcotics, animals, even there's a commodity and a price for it, and human beings. And this is going to strike a lot of people who are very much unaware of this in America, because many people who come from other places are very much aware. It's in your face, especially in Latin America, Southeast Asia. But many people in the United States, this is not known. This is, as Stanley Kubrick put it in a very controversial movie, it's people's eyes are wide shut to this. And I'm going to give you the official definition from a 2018 FBI threat assessment, declassified.
Okay.
Human trafficking / commercial sex acts. Inducing a person by force, fraud, or coercion to participate in commercial sex acts, or in which person induced to perform such acts has not attained the age of 18. Sub-definition: human trafficking, involuntary servitude. Definition: obtaining a person, persons through recruitment, harboring, fostering, transportation, provision, and or subjugating such persons by force, fraud, coercion into involuntary servitude, peonage, debt, bondage, or slavery. And that is a very real thing in the 21st century.
I mean, it goes on and on and on. I mean, it's how many years has it been going on for? I mean, it's unbelievable.
You can, yes, it's you know, it very, you know, you go back to religious scriptures. You know, you go back to the Innu and Ish of Sumeria. You go back to the Genesis. You go back to the Popol Vuh of the Maya or the Aztec. I mean, even the Polynesian Islanders, there's these references of Holocaust, you know, hecatombs, as they're mentioned in the Iliad and the Odyssey. That, you know, the specific word for these sacrifices or offerings were hecatombs. Now, that will be good, and then later, I'm just, the connotations we're talking about, it is a universal thing. It is a universal reality to many people, and it's real. I've witnessed it, only a fraction of it. I have some friends who have better experiences, but it is very real, and it is a $32.1 billion industry.
Well, it's a business, an illegal
It's true.
business.
Yes, one of the best, actually.
And these may be young girls, young boys,
Anyone
doesn't matter.
Anyone. But here's what's weird about it, especially if I encourage all listeners, get into the Freedom of Information Act is going to be your best friend. And what I'm about to coattail my next story, lessons, I guess we shall. So,
all right.
Men, women, kids, children, yeah, anybody who can be exploited can be trafficked. But right now, little boys are the biggest ones. They get the most money, and girls. And the only reason, and this is from what I gathered about 2 years ago when I was working with Homeland Security agents, the reason why children are so profitable is because, one, you can train them and they turn into chattel. Back in the slave terminology from the American South, they become chattel. You can groom them, doctor them, do them whatever you want. And also, the next thing, I will tell that for later, but there's another industry that is based off of this trade as well. And I'm going to save that for later because it is very real. It is not fake, and it's not, some people may not be able to handle it. And discretion is advised with this information. Absolutely. People die because of this information, ladies and gentlemen. And I just want to address that because it is serious. It is real. And it is very much a reality for many people who are in servitude.
What should folks look for? I mean, what do you look? How will you know this person being taken away, kidnapped, or whatever, in a store or whatever? I mean, what signs do you look for? I mean,
what you look for is quiet, too quiet. The victim is very quiet. They're because it's like Stockholm syndrome kind of psychology, right? Loving your master, which was what was indoctrinated throughout slaves throughout history. They don't want your masters and overseers. They don't want you to hate them. They want you to love them. And one thing that I noticed that a young lady told to me at one of the universities in my area, that models, these beautiful women will come and try to con ladies into doing jobs, modeling jobs, all this, and then one get pitched, so to speak. They get the pitch. They bring them to a van, put chloroform on them, whack them over the head with a baton, whatever it needs to be done. Some sedative to put them to sleep. Anything goes, and that has occurred. Schools, but yes, it is everywhere. It is everywhere. And I'm going to address one thing, a big case that
Please
broke this news to the world. And gentlemen, people like Alex Jones were really big on, this individual was one of the, let's just say Mr. Jones is very fond of, he was one of his best sources for information when he first started up out of Texas, right? Ted Gunderson was a director out in LA for a few years back in the late 70s and 80s. And then he got transferred, I believe, to DC.
Right.
And between his tours of service with the agency, he was keeping notes on how many people were disappearing. Him and his colleagues were the only ones keeping track of this information. And it's very detailed, and it's all public information. These PDFs are available. I just went over one to double tap. There is a lot. And the biggest case that made him lose his, he lived under a microscope till the day he passed away, because of, he emptied the spoiled milk that was out on the table.
Wow.
That nobody wanted to open. And the case he was on in Washington, D.C. was called The Finders. And within the course of this investigation, they found over 100,000 kids that totally unaccounted for. If you type it up through any search browser, the first thing will pop up is 30-page PDF document about it. It's all public information. It's all declassified as well. But yeah, so in essence, long story short, ladies and gentlemen, Agent Gunderson found out that the CIA, high-level governments around the world are engaged in probably the largest human trafficking ring in the world for political diplomacy.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And this has been anyone who has tried to expose this, anyone who has even tried to go public in a public arena to a large audience, they are discredited, they are disappeared, they get a special kind of 9mm round to the back of their head and they kill themselves. Epstein was one of them. He was one of these pimps who had some very high-profile UN people, intelligence people who helped him. He was only a low-tier operative, per se. He was just a boot. I'm going to use that word because some people understand what that means. He was a boot. He was just go here, go there. He wasn't really a shot caller, so to speak, and it is everything he is accused of, everything he did was all real. Catering women inside of these mansions and having cells for them. But he was just one person, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Epstein, hedge fund manager. And
he was murdered in jail.
Yeah, he killed himself, of course, naturally.
Was there ever a body found? Really identified?
So it was his body, and he was. He is just one example of many that have been silenced because of the gang they're in, the business there. It's a gang. They are no different than the Norteños, the Sureños, MS-13, Cartel de Jalisco, Cartel de Sinaloa, the Bratwas of Russia, the Triads, the Yakuza. These people, whoever they are no different than any organized crime syndicate. And here's what is very interesting about this business is it is, I would say, a joint operation between illegitimate and legitimate groups and organizations, simply because of how lucrative it is.
Yeah.
But also, here's one thing with this industry, and I've been battling with this personally in my life, and it's taken a toll on myself and many relationships with this information that I've discovered over the past year since I was on assignment. down at the U.S.-Mexican border. But the reason why this is so lucrative is on YouTube, if you want, you can look up these Oprah videos, these where these women are pitching makeup and rejuvenation cream for older women. And this is all explicit. This is not censored yet. You can still find a couple, and they openly say, "Oh my God, what is this made out of? I can feel it making me young already. Oh, it's made from surplus epinephrine and fetal tissue."
What? Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
The skincare industry is a huge advocate of. They use a lot of surplus human tissue. Let's put it that way.
Where do they get that from? Where do they get that?
So, and this is what I've been digging into, and then some people throughout, the internet have been citing things. But here's the one thing I found out. And I'm just going to be explicit. This is adrenaline is a very powerful substance. It's a very expensive substance, epinephrine. But I will tell you this, ladies and gentlemen. Have you ever noticed world leaders, how their eyes are? How they have a very unique, how do I say, psychological, like an explicit body language. It's a unique body language
right.
to have.
Yeah.
You won't see many common people with this. Maybe some high-profile criminals, maybe, but not even that. But if you look at the top leaders of the world and you give them, U.S. senators, UN officials, certain prime ministers of certain countries, certain presidents, and just, ladies and gentlemen, go look at pictures of them and notice how they look at things. Notice how, when you smile or you give emotion, your eyes follow with that emotion, correct?
Yeah.
A lot of artists and,
Right.
religions around the world, they say the eye is the key to the soul, right?
Yeah, of course.
It's a very primitive, connotation with human beings. The eyes, that's how you express everything. That's your key to the world, right?
Right.
Folks, ladies and gentlemen, take a look for a second and go study the eyes of these people. They are empty. They're very empty. And the way these people talk, regardless of there is a reason why. And it's because, and you can look it up.
All right.
And this is all public information. Adrenalized blood is a very, 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 very effective substance. It's a very powerful substance too, and it's a very medicinal. It gives the greatest feeling of euphoria. Probably one of the biggest drugs on the market. Probably about $10,000, $15,000 for only a few ounces, and it gives people very egotistical vibes, shall we say. It makes people feel invincible, and it's mentioned through history as well.
Now, how does one get this? I mean, where does it come from? The human body? Is it taken from children, or is it taken from what?
So, of what I've gathered and what Ted Gunderson, he has some videos he posted before he died, and there's a FBI publication I found that was investigating vampirism and sex trafficking and how many subjects within these industries or these victims were completely drained of blood. And most of them were very young. They were no older than 10 years old at times. And it is not a secret anymore. And I will just say this, it's not a secret anymore. It's out. People know. And the powers that be are been working around the clock for a long time to try to discredit this information. But it is absolutely real. And during Ted Gunderson's case, not only did he find out all of this, he did find out these people are a cult. a lot of these disappearances happen to occur on pagan holidays and very significant occult days. These people are very, very much into the dark side. They worship very dark things, and they believe in very dark things. It's all about power, and that's what most threat assessments on the sex trafficking and human trafficking industry all come to the MO, right? What is the MO?
Right.
And the MO ultimately comes down to power, because if you can tell a little boy that you love him and do sexual deeds and misconduct to him, then you can have anything you want. You can run the world.
Sick.
And this is what their religion is about. This is what they believe. A lot of people who are involved in this industry, they think what they're doing is love. You know, they think what they're doing is inheriting some kind of power. And I encourage everyone to dig into these documents, because they are public information until they're not, because we are living in, we are in 1984, ladies and gentlemen, whether you like it or not. And there is a lot of changes happening to the world. But the fact of the matter is that this is out of the shadows now. This kind of stuff is out in the open. It was quiet. A lot of people knew about it for quite a few times, especially in the entertainment industry, especially within the military and law enforcement and defense contractors.
I heard about some pizza parlor in New York or something like that.
Yes, and they use multiple different fronts. Traffickers, no different than drug traffickers, smugglers. False businesses are key, through money laundering operations, everything. It is very, like I said, it is bilateral, unilateral. It is so 360 that it's almost impossible to try to pinpoint hubs or distribution, because it can be anywhere. Any hotel, any motel, any room can have who knows how many people in it. But yes, it is a very serious thing, and I don't want to disclose too much.
Okay.
But the information is out there, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. On this, what does one look for? Like you say, I mean, I asked that question earlier. Is that
yes, absolutely. I apologize for diverting it.
That's all right. But what would I look for to see? Maybe she's going somewhere or something. And they said they're quiet and submissive and all that, but are they talked into it right away? I mean, are they just grabbed and sacked and off they go? And
sometimes yes. Sometimes victims are acquired very quickly. Other times, victims are catered. For one example, a dear friend of mine, him and his fiance went out to somewhere in Los Angeles, a very ritzy place in Los Angeles, very undisclosed location. And I talked to him about it just before this interview, just to get some recollection of the event. And the name of the restaurant was called the Black Cat. And sum it up, the waitresses were being very nice to him, her, and their children. One of the waitresses even picked her daughter up without permission and said, "Wow, these two children are beautiful. Would you like our special wine? I'm sure you'd love it. We would love to have your children." And that was exactly what was said to them. They were catering them. They're looking at them more than their parents.
Right.
And catering is a big thing. The nurturing, right? I think it's grooming. Yeah. So the word grooming is used a lot within the law enforcement community. These traffickers groom people. At the border, for example, it's a
Mr. KILLDOOR, we got to go to a little break here real fast. And with that, we're going to hold on to that, please, because we're coming right back to that. Okay, got to get these commercial breaks for my affiliates out there. So stand by. But
Absolutely.
All right.
Sounds good, man.
Got it. Thank you kindly.
You got it.
You ignore the signs, so you enable.
You don't want to sound like a hypocrite, so you enable.
You don't want to alienate your child, so you enable.
But if you think they're trying drugs, you shouldn't be afraid.
You're the parent.
So you are able.
You are strong.
So you are able. There are others just like you.
So you are able. And we can help.
So you are able.
Get help at drugfree.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America.
Mom, you wanted to talk to me?
The calendar hypnosis into thumbtack cushion, completely tailwind. And sewing elephants plant before cartoon paper cups. So numbers renovate.
If your teenager is trying drugs or alcohol, would you know the right words to use?
Afterward, lightly fish scale. Doorbell.
Find out what to say at drugfree.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America.
Oh, yes, good messages, I'll tell you for sure. Big shout goes out to a good friend of mine out there in Pennsylvania, and they're located on Kennett Square in Pennsylvania. Look for the place called Creekside Diner. I had a great time out there. Gosh, thank you so very, very much for that fun time I had out there, and how well you treated me. And Karen, you're a great lady. Just want to put a shout out to you, and also to Station 23 out there, Avondale. Great crew, great fire crew, great chief of fire. And I'll tell you, those guys are pro professionals and they're volunteers. And you guys got it together out there. Thank you so very much for your hospitality. Clark County Stations, Fire Station 78, 87, 77. I thank you very much also. And nice to be a part of you guys. And to all the doctors, nurses, emergency techs, and that room, they did such a great job. And you still are doing a great job. We love you, and love goes out to you from our station and from many, many other listeners. I'm quite sure of that. Well, I'm with Mr. KILLDOOR, and we are talking about human trafficking. And to recap, so go ahead with that, my friend.
Absolutely. So there's multiple different kinds of it. You know, what signs and symptoms, you know, what to look out for, what to be aware of. Right. Obviously, the one that strikes up many people is the biggest one at the U.S.-Mexican border. The docks of our big coastal cities are huge for Southeast Asian trade. Also, but the big thing's the border, because I'll speak from my perspective. You know, every detainee we came across at the border were children and young women. Only once with my fire team did we see a group of actual smugglers from Mexican nationals, right? Most of the detainees we came across were women and children, sub 18 years of age, and completely helped. Like, they didn't know where they were. Most of them were, based on their accents, were from El Salvador, Guatemala, or Nicaragua, and they didn't know identifications for most of them. And it was a job at that point, but after we got relieved of that position, I was talking to agents about some things, and I didn't dig too much in on certain things, obviously, because, you know, they like their jobs and they get paid good money to do their jobs within Homeland Security. So I started doing digging over the past, between 2019 and 2020, and it has affected me greatly. It has greatly affected.
My gosh.
Yeah. And it is
brutal.
I've been battling with it personally in my life. I've had many conflicts, night terrors from this. It is very real.
Yeah. U.S.
Marshals, sheriffs. I've met a Chicago and he said that they'll find in Connex boxes, and when they do go to look them up, they already have social security numbers, all of it, for some reason as well. And yeah, it is so, the magnitude of this is so big, and nothing's being done. Very little is being done about it.
Do many of them escape at all?
Not many people escape whatever servitude they're in, Mr. Larry. Most people, whatever they get caught up in, for example, the Latin American trade is mostly for cruceros or undocumented entries for people who can't afford to go through the ports of entry. So they pay for, you can't go through the visa route, so they pay these coyotes who more than often work with some drug trafficking organization to get them across. Now, the coyotes don't even, it's a hit or miss with these people, because sometimes they'll get their money and they'll leave you out in the desert. Sometimes they'll lead you to Homeland Security Border Patrol agents. They don't care. The things that can go wrong are so bad when you trust these people. Now, that's the overt side of trafficking. That's the stuff we can see.
Okay.
Now, the covert stuff is Connex boxes filled with kids and women and just people, right? That's been, U.S. Marshals have found that throughout the country, and you can go look up a case that was done in, I think, in Mississippi or Alabama. Please correct me if I'm wrong in a later message, but U.S. Marshals found.
They've done a great job. Department of Justice and the Marshal's Office. They've done a great job, especially with a lot of kids and stuff. They've got a great task team going on there. But go ahead.
Absolutely.
Very proud of them.
Yeah, I am too. I kept up with them all throughout 2020. They have found literally shipping containers filled with people throughout this country.
Yeah.
It's eyes wide shut, and it's, for many people who have witnessed this, it's extremely traumatizing to realize that this is reality. And but a lot of people keep it under wraps. It destroys a lot of people's lives.
Of course it does. Gosh.
A friend of mine who told me when he was intoxicated, unfortunately, when we were doing some bar hopping around out and around Orange County, LA area, and he told me his experience, and because I figured things were up, and his experience is that he was near the Sarap. There was a raid on the Sarap Valley in the Philippines during a mission there between multiple different units. We're talking all the way up from U.S. Army SOCOM down to the Navy aviation. A lot of people were involved, and long story short, there was a raid done in a village, and turns out that the raid that the Filipino Army did, there was no insurgents there, because obviously there's an ISIS cell in the South Philippines, but they've been really mitigated the last few years. However, this raid on the Sarap Valley, there was no insurgents. And 24 hours after the raid, women and kids gathered up, and this good associate of mine, good friend of mine, he proceeded to load every single person who was under than 18 years old into the helicopter with the special forces platoon that was with them. And the only person that wasn't a detainee loaded into that helicopter was a man in very much civilian attire, I'd say. I guess that'd be the appropriate word. Very ambiguous clothing with a balaclava over his head. And the only person he talked to was the Special Forces commander, who was a captain of the
What the hell is that all about? Oh, my boy. God.
Yep.
Yeah. Who do you
and
trust?
Then I'll finish this off. So a few days later, I'll just say Larry met up with my associate, my friend of mine,
Okay.
when they were off in Manila, Philippines, he told him that after a few drinks, he said that this has been going on since Vietnam, and he showed him because a waiter at the bar they were at in Manila, he gave them a dark web link through an onion router, right? He gave them a link, and what they saw were the front, side, and back profiles of women, young boys, and little girls with a price in multiple different currencies, all for sale. And SF captain, I say his name was Larry. Yeah, so his name Larry was.
That's not my name. I mean,
yeah, but his
name was Larry. Okay.
Not
all Larrys are bad.
George,
Yeah.
Timothy,
whoever.
a lot of people within those communities,
Yeah.
they don't give their names. They don't wear any kind of, they're ghosts.
Yeah.
So he used the name George when he was talking with my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And he told them that this has been happening since Vietnam, and
that's crazy.
We don't know where they go.
There's a book with a price. Oh my gosh, terrible.
Yep.
Now, do you think that some of these folks that are picked up, human beings, that they're also used for body parts?
Oh, absolutely. That was one thing I was going to get into. Mexico. So the drug trafficking organizations in Mexico. If your listeners dig in, you will find in Mexican news in the noticias. If you look into the noticias throughout Mexico, you'll find that sometimes there's bodies dropped into the middle of the cities, mostly on rural cities, because this kind of stuff is more in not populated areas, because that's more attention from law enforcement naturally. But if you dig into what I'm talking about, you actually find the articles, the information. There's literally bodies they find on the side of roads in these villages, organs pulled out of them from children, adults, mostly young people though, about 20-year-olds, 18, and China is a huge, the People's Republic of China is a huge advocate of the organ business.
Mm.
Because they have concentration camps there too, and I think there's not a lot of information from there. But if you know the history of regimes, then you'll probably put two and two together.
Right.
But excuse me. Another product from this trade is organs that the highest bidders can purchase, and it's all over the third world. It's not really here.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really get to see it here, but in the third world, it is extremely explicit.
Right.
You will see it.
I see. Gosh, my God.
Yep.
What other story you may have to tell us about this human trafficking?
I will say this, and I haven't been contacted by anyone yet about these things, but I do believe in the supernatural, and this is where it ties into the supernatural, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm a listener too, and I've heard Mr. Larry's supernatural stuff, and this is where it ties into the supernatural. Because what a lot of these people do who do these things, they're very much into the occult. The Nazis and the SS and the Tula Society did similar things, with blood sacrifices and the blood sacraments and the specific holidays on a specific solstice or something, very pagan, ancient stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very spiritual. And so when I came home, I was with one of my friends, my significant other with me at the time, and we proceeded to go to sleep after the night. Had some drinks, coming home after one of my assignments, and I had a very strange dream, and guys who've been in combat, guys who've been in firefights with drug organizations and investigations, whatever, you know, it happened, you know.
Of course.
In this dream, and I haven't brought this up to a religious clergy yet, but I will soon. It happened over about a year ago. Once I dropped this line of work, and I was in a prison, very similar to something from H.P. Lovecraft's novel, The Mountain of Madness. You know, a unique alien-looking prison with ambient light, very weird, very surreal, right? That's why I bring Lovecraft in, because it's just that's what I remember seeing. I was in this chamber with obelisks and symbols everywhere and geometric lines within geometric lines. You know, if you've ever read Aleister Crowley or read into the Kabbalah lore of occultism, you know, the sacred geometry kind of stuff, right? Which can be used for good and for bad, to the you know, to the magic community or to the spiritual community, right? And within this chamber, I was just me at once, and then this ambient light, a greenish ambient light, started to go. It's so vivid. I mean, my God. I mean, and all I remember is these eyes manifested at me, and they stared at me, and they were red, glowing eyes with these black, disembodied entities, you know, like a fog in a way, you know, and then an echo, a soft whisper echoed through this chamber I was in. Oh my God, where am I? It's so real. It felt so real. And the entities proceeded to say to me, join us, join us, join us, join us. You know the truth. You know the truth. The power, the power. Just a repetitive voice, right? A lot of people who you know, came in contact with demons or poltergeists or very upset, or revenants, very upset spirits. It's the same kind of disembodied voices. It's the same kind of very subversive wording, right? Like, get out. We know who you are. That kind of, like, they know, they feel you. They have a connection, physical, mental, and spiritual, right? And at that moment, a flash of light came within the room. And then what I saw were, I mean, if you can look up tarot cards, you know, medieval tarot cards of Beelzebub, Mormos, and all these other entities, I will not say their names anymore because they are, this is very real stuff. I saw these monstrosities. I saw what they were, besides the illusion of the mist, and I saw these monsters. And then I started running. That's all I remember, was running and screaming, help me, please help me. And the next thing I remember, once I fell asleep, the thing I remember after I fell asleep was I was outside. It was 6 o'clock in the morning, and my friend was slapping me across the face saying, Keaton, wake up, man. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, brother. Wake up, man. Wake up.
So you have, in using different names, of course, on the show. You had code names back then too, did you not?
Scipio.
Yeah.
Mark. It's different ones, and it's real. This is spiritual warfare. And I have, this last year, I've been really awakening to spiritualism, and I witnessed pure evil. What this industry is pure, unadulterated, unequivocal, unapologetic evil. And to anyone who has witnessed this, I give my prayers to you. If you're battling with these encounters and this reality, you know, because it is very mentally costing. It takes a lot of effort to recover from this, because it is spiritual. Because what happens with people in this industry, or people who find out within the law enforcement, military community, you become part of it because you know so much about it. Very much to how gangs operate, right? Like the Omertas of the Sicilian outfits, and then the Cosa Nostra of the Gambino or Genovese crime families, or it becomes a very entrenching thing, because what, using myself as an example, what is so damaging to the fabric of first world society.
Right.
The fact that slavery is being paid for and supported by tax dollars. That simple thing is enough to get people, that statement alone is enough to get people erased from history.
Of course.
Yeah.
I want you to stand by. We'll be right back. A little break here for the affiliates.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Now, back to Glenn Leary.
And we are back. And we're talking to Mr. KILLDOOR about human trafficking. And it's been pretty scary, pretty, I'll tell you, disgusting. And I'm telling you, it's happening today. It's happening right now. Yeah, crazy.
Absolutely, people. But
and
this is where
the government
solutions come in.
You think the government's that much involved?
Oh, there's without a doubt, Mr. Larry. The Finders case cements that information. That's why ultimately Mr. Ted Gunderson is such a great source for Majestic 12. I'm sure we've on this program we've talked a lot about that.
Oh yeah.
The 200 people who really run the show in D.C. in Virginia. It is because something of this scale and intensity, it couldn't have the support of a gang or of a crime organization. It's just too it's big. Just the infrastructure is so robust enough that where it has to be within the intelligence community.
I saw a thing out of Australia on this children being abducted and stuff in grocery stores, Walmarts, all sorts of things. And this child had dropped his toy, her stuffed animal, and was hoping that somebody would pay attention to that. And then behind her back, she was moving her hands like this. People can see it up, closing the hand up and down, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, Morse code, Morse. And God, I hope that travels everywhere in every country. So you will say, excuse me, sir, your child. I mean,
that's all it takes.
All it takes. Either they're going to freaking run, or I don't know. I mean, we've got.
Yeah, that's what it takes. But here's what's even scarier, Mr. Larry, is I've spoken with another very good friend of mine's mother, who happens to work within Child Protective Services, and she has told me that certain cities, especially within blue states, California, Oregon, Washington, Illinois, certain CPS services within mostly blue states is where you hear it from. You won't hear it much from red states, but it is happening everywhere. There is certain CPS agencies that willingly give children to convicted pedophiles, give orphans to convicted pedophiles, and that is absolutely accounted for.
God. Oh, man. You got me speechless here. That just makes me sick. I mean, let me see my stomach. Oh, I think that's crazy. And that statistically it's been proven.
Yes, there's many cases throughout the United States where orphans have been sent to convicted pedophiles via CPS, where they become groomed to continue this, because that's how, you know, if you did, and this is where and this is where the why comes in. So why does this happen? You know, why is this? Where does the psychology come in? Where does the modus operandi come from?
Right.
And this, if you really want to dig into the publications of Dr. Jung and Dr. Freud, and what's really sickening about the academic community is that those two doctors are the best, are viewed as the best psychoanalysts of the, I mean, but here's one thing people forget about those two. They were very much open to the thought that for children to experience true love, they need to have a sexual relationship with their same-sex parent. And this is published. They openly address this. And what happens with that, and this is one thing that happened a lot in the ancient world, was, you know, disciplining young men throughout ancient times. And this is still very prevalent in Islamic countries, extremely conservative Islamic countries, not all. And disciplining men through rape, disciplining children through sexual acts. And that creates that love the master complex, right? Because it creates a docileness, a defeatedness.
Right.
And it's if you dig deep enough, it is all there. But that's one thing that I warn people about studying this and digging into this. And it happened to me, and I am recovering from this trauma. And you find God through this.
Yes.
You seriously find something to worship, because if there is this evil, there is this good. There has to be a good. Because now, in the 21st century, this business is out in the open now. You know, it's you know, I'm a pretty secular person, I'll say, but I love my books. I love my literature, and you know, this is a very real problem.
I do hope that they're caught and prosecuted. I hope for the safety of these men, women, young boys, and young children that that Saint Michael or some glorious angel looks over them and protects them.
Absolutely, because it is it's spiritual. It's absolutely spiritual.
Satan can be beat. And I pray to God that these human beings are find this safety, and you know, hope these people are caught.
Absolutely, it is a very it is a very intense thing, and I will say, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Larry, that it has affected many parts of my life, and it is a battle every day to be good. Because, you know, what's Friedrich Nietzsche, and I forgot which book, I think it's Thus Spoke Zarathustra, but the abyss, the concept of the abyss, right? The metaphysical concept of the abyss, you know? Because if one stands close enough on the edge of the abyss and gets a microphone or, binoculars or an optic to stare into the abyss enough, you know, you're going to fall into it.
Well, we must pray for that. That does happen. And in prayer, you should be safe.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we're getting to the top of the hour. We're in the show, but I'd like to deeply thank you very much for coming on. Thank you for risking your time. This is very serious stuff. We don't do a lot of serious shows like this, but it had to be done. And
absolutely.
I want to thank my audience out there for listening tonight. And if you know of anything like this happening, contact the Justice Department, contact the marshals, federal marshals, someone in higher, also your local police and all that stuff, of course, but keep going with it. Don't keep reporting it. Case unless it falls.
Yeah, that's literally the only way.
Yeah, it'll fall through
that's
the cracks.
Way.
Yeah, it'll disappear somehow away if these people have that much control.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Again, thank you so much, Mr. KILLDOOR, and we'll have you on again if it's okay with you down the road. And,
absolutely, absolutely, Mr. Larry. It's your hospitality is needed. I appreciate your content. I love your content, and I will definitely see you again soon, sir. And I'll give you some commentary. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you kindly. Be well and be safe, and keep the prayers up, brother.
Absolutely,
we're praying for
Larry.
you too. You've got it. Be well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that does it for us tonight. I want to thank everybody for listening. I am Glenn Larry. It was a great show tonight. We'll see you next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. Be well, be safe, and thank you. And good night.
That old lady told me